Welcome. My name is Lynn Green, and I'm proud to serve as president of the Prince William Committee of 100. Thank you all for being here tonight for our March program, the Rush to Remap. We're so glad to see such a strong turnout from across our community. This topic, redistricting, is complex, timely, and deeply impactful for our region especially, and you're going to hear about that shortly. For those who may be new to Prince William Committee of 100, we are a nonpartisan civic organization committed to bringing people together across perspectives for thoughtful, informed dialogue on the issues that shape our community. We don't advocate for positions or tell you what to think. Instead, we create space to learn, ask questions, and engage in respectful conversation grounded in facts and local impact. To begin our evening, I'd like to invite everyone who can to stand, if you are able, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. And the flag over here. You ready? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the born and unborn.
Thank you, and everybody be seated. It is now my pleasure to introduce our moderator for this evening, Jill Palermo. Jill is the managing editor of the Prince William Times. She joined Piedmont Media in 2016 as a reporter, following more than 20 years of experience reporting and editing for daily newspapers across the country, including in Illinois, Virginia, California, Florida, and North Carolina, and even earlier in her career at the Potomac News right here in our region. The Prince William Times is published weekly and is available online 24/7. It is one of two newspapers produced by the nonprofit Piedmont Media, which also publishes the Fauquier Times. A Chicago native, Jill earned her degree in journalism from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. She and her husband, a retired U.S. Marine, raised their 3 children in Montclair, where they still live today. We are grateful to have Jill guiding tonight's conversation. We're also pleased to welcome our distinguished panelists this evening and thank them for sharing their time and expertise with us. A quick note on the flow of the program. Jill will begin with a moderated discussion among our panelists, and we will hold audience questions at the end of the program. Thank you again for being here, for your interest in this important topic. We're glad to have you join us. Jill, I'm turning it over to you. Thank you. Is it working?
Hello.
Still there.
There you go.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. We're going to figure out our microphone.
Hello. Good evening.
Yay.
There we go. Well, thank you, Lynn, so much for that nice introduction. It's my pleasure to be here tonight. I don't know if people really understand how special the Committee of 100 is. Like I was sharing with Lynn, I just love that the mission of Committee of 100 is to help our community come to a common understanding of the facts so that we can all find solutions, right? So we can make the best decisions for our community. So I really thank you for inviting me to be here today, and thanks to the board members. They're all volunteers, and they put this together. It's a lot of work, so I thank them for doing that. We're here tonight because of this special election that we're having in April, which is like kind of unheard of for Virginia, right? It's certainly a unique situation we find ourselves in. I wanted to start tonight with just talking about the question before voters. And even the question itself is kind of controversial, but let's start there. If you have voted, or if you're going to vote, or if you've got your mail-in ballot, which let's plug that, you have till April 10th to sign up for your mail-in ballot. I have not filled mine out yet because I'm going to wait till the discussion tonight so I can even be better informed. But the question before voters in the special election says, should the Constitution of Virginia be amended to allow the General Assembly to temporarily adopt new congressional districts to restore fairness in the upcoming election, while ensuring that Virginia's standard redistricting process resumes for all future redistricting after the 2030 census. So, temporary congressional districts only, right? And we're going to go back to our kind of famous and what we should be proud of, our nonpartisan redistricting process in 2030. But if you have the TV on, or you're getting your mail, you're getting like all sorts of these mailers, right? Like, and you don't, like if you read these mailers, like you have no idea like what to think, because the different sides are characterizing our amendment in different ways. One says, this one here says, vote yes for fair elections, right? To protect our democracy and restore fairness. But this one here says, vote no on gerrymandering. It says the outcome of this election would be devastating. It would silence minority vote. It would, separate our communities, divide our communities, diminish the power of Black and Hispanic voters. So, but all this is happening for a reason, as we know. The redistricting amendment was first proposed last fall in response to Republican-led redistricting efforts in other states, at the encouragement of President Donald Trump. The Republicans hold a 4-seat advantage in the U.S. House right now, and we have 3 empty seats. And the Republicans are hoping to hold on to that power in what could be a difficult election for their party. So clearly, this is an effort to counter those Republican efforts. So how should we think about this amendment before us? Thankfully, we do have a great panel of guests here. We are missing our Democratic voice. Delegate Dan Helmer couldn't be here with us tonight, so we don't have him with us, which is unfortunate. But we do have these folks, and we're proud to have them here with us. I was going to introduce them. I'll start on the far end. At the far end here, we have Kimball Brace. Kimball has been involved in elections for nearly 50 years, first as a journalist for NBC Network News, Congressional Quarterly, and Plus Publications. He started election data services in 1977, and since that time, he has done redistricting and election administration consulting in more than half the country for congressional, state, legislative, and local redistricting. Since 1972, he's been involved in national, state, and local governments in a wide range of election administration topics, including voter registration systems, voting equipment, and training. And he even served as our acting registrar here in Prince William County for a while, and he has been a volunteer poll worker here for the past 18 years and a longtime resident of Manassas. So thank you so much. This is like an expert in our midst. And in the center here we have Brian Cannon, and he is an advisor for No Gerrymandering Virginia, which hopefully he'll tell you about when it's his turn. Mr. Cannon is a democracy reform advocate with extensive experience on redistricting and election policy at the state and local level. His work centers on how district maps, voting, and administrative choices affect representation and accountability. Mr. Cannon was also a leader in the 2020 constitutional amendment to create a bipartisan commission to handle redistricting, which is what we have in place today. He and his wife live in Chesterfield County with their 2 children. So thank you for making the trip. And last but certainly not least, we have Delegate Michael Webert. Delegate Webert is joining us from Fauquier County, which is also kind of a drive that I make on a regular basis. He represents Virginia's 61st district, which includes part of Fauquier County. Delegate Webert has served as the House Republican Whip since 2022, and he sits on several House committees and state commissions while also working at various national policy, with various national policy and political organizations. Delegate Webert supported Virginia's bipartisan redistricting amendment and works with campaigns for public office across the Commonwealth. He's also a cattle farmer in Fauquier County. He lives outside of Warrenton with his wife and his 2 boys. Okay, so each one of our panelists, thank you. So each one of our panelists will share information about the redistricting amendment, and hopefully stuff you haven't heard before. Like, our goal is that you're going to leave here a little bit better informed about the issue before us. And they're also going to tell us, how they think about this question before voters. So we hope that you'll listen closely with an open mind And like I said, the aim is to leave here with a deeper understanding. So we're going to start with Kimball Brace, who has a presentation to sort of set things up.
Set things up, yes. Hello there. All right, does this work now?
No, is it not working?
No, keep the microphone.
Is it turned on?
There we go. Is this better? No?
Yes.
Hello? Yes. Here? Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Who is Kim Brace in Election Data Services? What do we do? Well, we've been involved since 1972 in a whole bunch of different aspects of elections and redistricting. We have clients all across the country, and we do redistricting in more than half the nation. We've been involved since 1979 in literally half of the country on that side. We do a lot of compiling of data to be able to help on the redistricting side of things, as well as we testify in court cases. So I serve as an expert witness in more than 80 different court cases around the country. So what we end up also doing is publish data and publish maps. And I brought for you, there we go, that works. There we go, all right. I brought for you tonight copies of our 2024 poster. It's been out for a while, so I had some extra copies. I figured, what the heck, I could get rid of a couple of boxes in my garage on that side. So everyone can have one. This is the famous red and blue map that we started in 1986 on that side. So we have been involved with various election administration. Yep. We've been involved with various election administration issues, as Jill mentioned, in terms of voter registration system and looking at using GIS. Hello.
Talk into the mic. Talk directly into the mic.
Hello. All right. Will. All right. All right. Hopefully this will work. So we have been involved with a lot of different election administration things. I'm going up and down. Sorry about that. Not that far off. On that side. Yes. All right. We'll try this one now. We have kept track of what kind of voting equipment is used in every single county in the country, and have since 1980 on that side. So we have a long history of information. We have been involved with Prince William County for a long time. I graduated from American University and then moved out of Maryland and to Northern Virginia and into Prince William County in 2002. Since 2008, I've been a poll worker for the county. In 2013, there was a Long Lines Commission task force, if people would remember back then, and I was on that task force and did most of the analysis for it. I guess I did a halfway decent job because the Board of Elections came to me and said, geez, you know everything about elections, will you be our registrar now? And I said no, because I had my own company on that side. So I was appointed as the acting general registrar for 6 months. But I've continued to study election studies in the county since that time. So if it deals with elections and it deals with data, we're probably involved with it on that side. So for today's discussion, I wanted to go over things like reapportionment and redistricting, stepping stones of the election process and how that impacts redistricting, look at what the state has to go through to put together the database for redistricting, look at some of Prince William County's demographics and how it's going to impact everything, and look at some of the voting history on that side, as well as then finally looking at and solving up the question in 2026 redistricting. So, what's the difference between reapportionment and redistricting? Well, reapportionment is the allocation of districts to an area. Think of that like congressional district going to states. Some states say reapportionment in their redistricting activity, but that's only because they used to allocate districts to the counties in that state. Redistricting, on the other hand, is the crafting of the district configurations within those areas that we have. Now, you know, we've got congressional, state legislative, county commission, supervisor, county council, city boards, lots of different things that require districts if we have single member districts. It usually takes place once every 10 years, unless you're Tom DeLay from the old days of Texas. And now I had to add this about Donald Trump on that side. So if you go back, you know, we were originally in Virginia the one that had the most number of delegates in Congress at the very beginning of our existence. Each district was about 30,000 people, a little small districts on that side. By the time we got to 2020 reapportionment, we've gone to 761,000 people in a congressional district on average. Virginia is at 11 seats. If you look at the history of reapportionment, you understand that the upper Midwest and the Northeast is where we have lost population and lost congressional districts. People have gone south and gone west. And so that's and this is since 1930. So 100 years, this is the pattern that we've had. For looking at 2030, we're looking at this amount of change that's anticipated. You notice that Virginia is not going to be gaining a seat nor losing a seat. I say that in 2026 with some trepidation, because I said that in 1995, and Louisiana was supposed to gain a seat. Katrina came along and they lost a seat the next reapportionment. So you always have to be careful. You never know what's going to happen. As far as redistricting and the elections process, this is what we're going to be looking at. When you look at the elections process, keep in mind that we have total population. That's what we do the districts upon. But not everybody that's in the population can vote, because you have to be of voting age. And not everybody of voting age can vote, because you have to be citizens in this country. But not everybody that is citizen can vote. You have to be registered in the country. Not everybody registered can vote because they got to turn out on that side. And not everybody that turns out votes for each office, even President of the United States, and certainly not for congressional and state legislative and on down. So what you see here is a depiction of what we have in terms of data in this country from the elections process. Indeed, the elections process has a demographic mix. If you look at the electorate, the mix of the electorate varies, and it changes with each stepping stone that you have. So each of those steps have a different proportion of different groups within them. And indeed, if you look at different geographies in this country, everything is different in all of those stepping stones. Prince William is different than Fairfax and downstate, obviously. And indeed, if you look at it over time, there's differences with each election cycle. So it is important to understand the demographics and the changes that happens, and that's what we do with redistricting. We end up putting together massive databases to help in looking at redistricting. We're dealing with types of data, and we're dealing with the sources of the data. So census is one source, and political is the other source. The types of data, of course, is looking at tabular data or numbers and spatial data. You got to know where is precinct 4 in the county. So all of this comes together in putting together a database with census data, population data. Hello, testing, 1, 2, 3. Hello. And election results. That they change over time, and of course the precinct boundaries change over time. So putting together all of this for redistricting is what's important, and that's what people in Richmond do. You look at over time, and could be multiple decades that you put together to see what is going on in the trend line. That's what's important to understand what could be possible. So each of those stepping stones talked about before is reflected in this data set that's important. So if we look at the Prince William County demographics, we look at the 2020 census. The yellow area is the white population, the blue is the African American, and there's some green there for Asian. Blue is for the Hispanic. So if we look at the black population, where we are in the county, south of the southern part of the county is where a great deal of the African Americans live on that side. We look at the Hispanic population, and there is some in the south, but there is an awful lot up by Manassas, the Manassas Park. So that dichotomy is what is also coming into play. So let me ask a question of people. If you look at the largest area and the largest range between people that are registering or not registering, or turning out or not turning out, what is that kind of dichotomy? What's important? Yep, there we go. All right. If we go back, as we have, to 1964, when they first started doing this, we looked at what every 2 years, the Census Bureau was showing. People think that age is what's important. Well, that's not the case. People think that race is what's important. Well, that's not the case either. People think income is important. No, that's not the case either. What is important is home ownership. That shows the biggest difference between people that register and don't register, or they turn out or they don't turn out. So home ownership is the key demographic criteria for voting. And you see that in the county also on that side. So if you own your home, you own your shelter, you are more concerned about what's going on in the jurisdiction. And you're more than likely to vote. So that's what's important on that side. You want to be invested in the community. And if you're renting, you're not invested in the community on that side. If we look at Prince William County, renters and vacancies, southern part of the county on that side, and up around Manassas, that's critical on that side. That helps explain some of this. We look at turnout. This is the turnout from 2025, this last November. What was going on in terms of percent of registered voters turning out? What's happened down in Woodbridge? Low turnout. Mid County is where the high turnout is, as well as North County. Even if we look at the percent of registered voters or the percent of active registrants, it's that same pattern on that side. So down south is not turning out as much as up north. That has an impact on the election results. These are the results from 2025. This is for governor. We see the Democraticness in the southern part and the Republicanness in the northern part. That is how this county is split apart on that side. And that goes for most offices that are on the ballot. You see that thing all the time. And I've seen this pattern going back to 2012 when I worked for the commission. So it happens in the council races and the magisterial district, as well as for the House district that we had in 2025. That pattern is apparent in all of the aspects of voting. I don't know if this comes up that well. Yeah. In the different ways that the county keeps data in terms of absentees and election day and provisional ballots, all of that kind of thing. That same pattern is there. There are differences in each type of voting, but that's what's important to understand. Even in the supervisory race that we had in 2025 in Painesville, this pattern was there. All of that area in green is more the Manassas part of that district, while the rest of it is all the northern part of the county. Even last week, for the magisterial district in Woodbridge, what was intriguing, if you look at these election results, we see along the I-95 corridor is where the Democrats turned out, while elsewhere around that area is where Republicans turned out. But they didn't turn out very much. If you look at county or the district-wide, we only had 10% of the voters that voted in that area. I kidded Keith that he now lives in Belmont. He got everybody to turn out in his building, I think, or something like that. So those are the high ones. But you see what's happening to the west of 95. They're not turning out as much. That's part of the demographics of what's happening. So if we look at the 2026 redistricting, I made use of the VPAT. Their system is marvelous. If you haven't gone to it, by all means, make use of it. You'll see some of this, and indeed they've taken the data and put it against the districts. This is what we had in the old 2024 district with 6 Democrats and 5 Republicans on that side. The new configuration is showing a lot more Democrats, as was talked about on that side. So let's look at what this does in terms of and how one of my rules that I always tell incumbents is don't live on the edge of your district. Yeah. Don't live on the edge of your district. And I'm here to tell you, everybody, that I'm the poster child of this. Indeed, if you look at, I was on the edge of that 10th district, very much so. When we got redistricted with the new plan, somebody down in Richmond didn't, I know, said somebody in Richmond didn't like me. You know, I'm the only precinct that got pulled out and put into the other district on that side. Well, I'm going to show you. So, you know, we have right now the existing districts. 57% of the county's population is in the 7th district, and 42% of the county's population is in the 10th. That's the dichotomy. That's how we're split currently. But if we look at the existing district, if we look at it in another dimension, we see that indeed that 57%, that District 7, that part, that the county only amounts to 32% of the district. So we're not a majority of that district on that side. Or you are a plurality, yeah. If we look at the 10th district, we are not the majority, 25%, but we're not the main part of that district on that side. So if we look at the proposed plan, you can see how the county is being split apart. into 5 districts in April. Yeah. So 5-way split is what's taking place. But if you look at the various parts, there's the 1st district and how it goes all the way down. Prince William is 23% of the district compared to Fairfax's 24%. So we're not a majority, clearly, on that one. We look at the 7th district, we're a much smaller piece of the 7th district, 2%. But yeah, so that part is up there. You can see the county. We look at the 8th district that comes into our district, our county. We are the plurality, but we're only at 13% in the 8th district in that regard. In the 10th district, we're only 4% of that 10th district in the proposal. And in the 11th, we're only 16% coming through the middle part of the county. So you can see where this is a difference going on in how we're being split apart. So, question I have for everybody here is, if Prince William County was a person, do you want to be represented by 2 people? Or do you want to be represented by 5 people? You got 5, fractionally, yes, I agree. But if you're going to go and lobby, you know, the county suddenly has 5 people representing their interest compared to only 2 before. See? It depends on how you want to look at it. That's what redistricting is all about. It's all about differences in what's going on and looking at the data. So when we look at redistricting, we look at a command that was spoken many a times in many districts across the country of looking at the Olympic follow-up of what's taking place and going into a straitjacket of 1 person, 1 vote. And indeed, like the first 5, the combatants will go to the courts and ask who won. That's what takes place in redistricting. We can never decide because we've got too many different people cutting apart the meat or whatever the case may be. But as Democrats and Republicans, we look at different things, different ways, in different colors on that side. And from us on the redistricting side, that's the way the process ends. Yeah. So, that is my presentation to you. Indeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was lots of data and great slide with how the county is